So welcome. In our last lecture, we learned about the basic wireframing and the responsiveness of it. We learned about the high fidelity wireframing and the responsiveness of it. So there is something I didn't point out very clearly to you. Okay, if you watch very closely on this wireframing, you will see that all sections have almost the same alignment. You see the alignment here? You see how perfect it is? This is what I want, except for elements like this, which are center aligned. Okay, elements like this, which are not supposed to be blown to the edge because they're just three. I'm going to explain this later. Elements like this, so which are not supposed to be blown to the edge. We're going to talk about this when we start designing. But when we get to the footer also respect that same alignment. We call this the page width. In web design, it's called the page width. All alignment should be respected by the header and footer. The header and footer should have the same alignment of page width size. All content from the inside, starting from the header, should also respect the header, but the rest of the element, if it is being altered by an element starting next to the header, possibly the section that describes the services or the content of the website, if it's altered, you can also alter the rest of them if you wish to. But for the best practice, keep everything to the page width. That is what I wanted to explain. I forgot about that. The same happens in the mobile responsiveness. Also note that very clearly, okay? Responsiveness must have to work. As you can see from the footer, it follows the responsiveness. But when we come to this particular element, it's not following exactly the same rules, okay? There are conditions to that. That's number one. Number two is that, as you can see, the text element here is left aligned. Everything is pushed to the edge. Like we are having this element, having a space here, but we're not seeing the same space here because this is left alignment. But here, we are seeing a space here and we are seeing a space here. This is center alignment. Now we have right alignment when everything is pushed to the other edge, but in most cases it's not used. We also use the left alignment here, just as we used in the box element for the courses here. Now I want to explain something in the hero section. In the hero section of the basic wireframing, you see that the elements here are left aligned, but on mobile responsiveness, it is center aligned. This is to achieve best responsiveness. If this have an image in the background, you can place the element to the left. That is no problem. Okay, I'll show you an instance where that works perfectly well. But this image is at the beneath of this particular section. This and this is the hero section, and since the image is beneath it, we have the element center aligned for the best practice. So noting this, I want you to follow when you are doing your own assignment. I want to follow the simple rules of alignment. Okay, do exactly as you see in the example I'll be providing you. So today we are going to deal with the div responsiveness. Okay, this is the div responsiveness and this is how it look like. This way beyond normal wireframing. As you see, you can't see any of this online. All these ideas, I'm pushing it out because I note that it is very necessary to understand all of this before we start or moving into making this website come to life. Okay, now what you need to understand about the div sections or div wireframing is that this is all about nesting. Okay, nesting means putting element inside of element inside of element. For instance, you want to create a button. Okay, you need an element that button can stay inside. The button can stay on its own, though in most cases it can stay on its own aligned. But if you want to achieve best practice of alignment, you have to place a div, then place the element inside of that div. That is for Oxygen. For Elementor, you have to place a container and then place the element inside of that container, so that when you are preparing the alignment, left align, right align, it becomes very easy for you to do stuff like CSS grid and all of that. So now in the hero section, as we have in this particular div or container wireframing, in the hero section, you note here we have the hero section, and then we have another div inside of the hero section, and then we have another div inside of the div inside of the hero section, or the heading section I mean. Now let's explain this. These elements you are seeing here are not actually elements. These are actually divs that the elements rely on, which means this is the div representing the logo div, which means this houses the logo. This is the div representing the menu div. This houses the menu, and this houses the button. Now, this is not actually the button. If we add up the button here, we are having 1, which is section, 2, which is the div guiding everything inside of it, 3, which is the divs guiding the element inside of it, and the 4th one is now the element. So we now have the element inside of this div, the div and the div guiding it, and the div which is the what section. Now, why do we have all these divs stacked over and over again? Why we have these divs stacked this way is because we want to achieve better responsiveness. Now, when we have these divs inside of this particular column, inside of this particular div, all these divs, the 3 divs inside of this div, it becomes easier for us to select the div outside and tell these divs inside how we want them to stack or how we want them to be responsive. But if we don't do that, we barely do that from the section, because section don't have tougher control, CSS grid or some kind of grid layout styling like we can achieve with just the div. Now, why do we also have, since this can control the element, why do we also have the div controlling this? Why we do that is this: for element like this that have more than 3 elements inside of it, we need to control it with one div, because if we place all of these 3 elements inside of this menu all around here, any responsiveness we give to this particular element outside it, it will affect those elements because they are not grouped. Another word for nesting is called grouping. Okay, so we can group these elements. We are going to talk about that when we come to the other part of this. Grouping elements inside elements makes it easy to control those elements. Now, this particular div, when we select this div guiding these 3 divs here, we are actually telling it that any div it's fine, any element you find inside it is on its own. But any div that has any element, other elements inside of it, is assumed as singular elements. So that is why when you select on this and make this thing responsive, they are going to respect the parent div or the parent controller, which is what? The responsibility this is given to all elements inside here is telling this one to be in a way that this one will be and this one will be. Okay? It doesn't care whether there is any other element inside of these other ones. That is what nesting means. Okay, now we come to the next section, which is the hero section. We have the heading element. We have here the left, we have a div inside of this, which is guiding the 2 div, which is the body text element. This is where we have the body text, the button, and this is just the image. So these things are, this 2 row is separated by just what? 2 divs. This is div left and div right. And when we want to make this responsive, all we need to do is to select this div that is guiding the 2 of them and tell it to stack vertically. Automatically, these 2 will what? This will go under this. That is how to achieve responsiveness. No other way. You must have to nest things so you can control the behavior of those things with the parent container, okay? The child container is the element div that is guiding the element inside it. The parent container is the div guiding the elements inside of that section. So we are done with the hero section. We get to the next section, which is the services section. We have a div and we have the heading text and we have the body text. So this is the heading text div and this is the body text div. With this div outside it, we are now telling these 2 divs to what? Stack vertically. We are going to learn that way. Very, very simple. We're going to learn that when we start doing what? CSS grading and alignment or responsiveness in our web design. So now we have this div out here. We have this other div inside here, which is the heading text and this other one. Now with this div out here, we can actually tell these 2 divs to stack horizontally, which means we can have the heading text here and the body text in this other side. It is the function of the div outside to control the responsiveness of the div inside. You're going to understand all these things as we conclude this, okay? Just watch this video over and over again. You're going to understand it. And when we are doing the practical aspect of it, you're going to understand it better. And we have this div guiding the image, so it tells the image to what? Stack vertically. And we have these divs guiding these services. So we have a parent div, which is the card. A parent div card, and we have another div inside, which guides the heading element, and we have another div guiding what? The body element. So this div, which is the parent div, is telling these 2 divs to what? Stack vertically. We can also use it to tell them to stack what? Horizontally. But we are telling stack vertically because this is how it's going to look what? Responsive. That is it for this. Now we have the course section. We have the div guiding the image. We have the div guiding everything. We have another div guiding everything from here, which is telling everything to stack vertically. And we have the div guiding the ratings. We have the div guiding the heading text. And we have the div guiding the image and the text element over here. Now, as you can see, it's separated by a line, which means this is 2 divs. Now this div is telling it to stack what? Horizontally, not vertically. The div guiding these 2 elements telling it to what? Stack horizontally. That's the power of a div. Now we have the button div down here. The same applies to the rest of this. And we have the button div also here, which controls the button, tells the button how to align, whether it should be at the edge, whether it should be at this edge. So there is a div. Actually, let me just draw it out here. Okay, there's a div outside here guiding this button. So it's telling, you can select this div and tell this button to stay in the middle. Okay, can tell it to stay at the edge left, can tell it to stay at the edge right. That's the function of the div, to control elements inside it, whether vertically or horizontally, or align them to the place you want them to be. At the top, bottom left, bottom right, bottom top right, or top left, or center align. That's the function of the div, and that's the control it gives to the elements inside of it. In the footer, we have the box here, which contains all of the text inside of it. The heading text, there should be a div in the heading, and there should be some body text over here. So this controls both the div guiding the heading text and div guiding the body text, just as it is here. This is just an instance of what we have here. Now the div also under div guiding the form field. Okay, the first one guiding the form field, and the second one guiding the button. So this is all about div responsiveness. Why you need to learn about the div responsiveness is this will help structure the way you understand the website. Okay, the website is all website you see. Okay, is structured in a way that the responsiveness is going to work, but for that to happen, it needs to be nested or grouped in a way that it can be controlled. Without it being controlled, everything will be scattered in the website. So you can't see this particular tutorial online. Why I bring it up is that I needed to make you understand how things actually work. Everything we see from here is not actually as it is. Okay, this is not actually as it is. This is just the wireframe. This is just the basic area of what we see, but this is not actually the skeletal framework like they call it. This is not actually that. This is actually the skeletal framework, because this is actually the basis of what you are building. This is what you do first before you start building the website, or before you start building any section. You drop in divs, nest them, drop in elements inside them, control them. It becomes very easy for you to build websites. So people who are not using this particular means to build a website are people who find web designing difficult to do. That's why I have to portray this from the beginning of this course. So when we get to the later level of the building, you don't have to misunderstand what divs and nesting and grouping is all about. It becomes more and more easier for you, and that is what makes our course in the Cartographies Academy seamless and more easy for you to learn. Okay, I'll meet you guys in the next class. Until then, have a wonderful day.